If you are frustrated with expensive scarabs that are great for expensive farming strats that's played by the top 1%, here is something that I discovered which could turn the tide of madness. And so with this video, I'm gonna completely end the misinformation of wasting your precious Atlas points while also explaining to you why you have been doing it wrong the whole time. And with this strat, there's no way you could make a loss even if you were to test run them in a couple of T16 maps. There is minimal RNG involved compared to any other higher ends of farming strats. And with very little investment, you are guaranteed to make tons of profit in scarabs, embers, maps, and the items that are dropped from the lantern mods. All of these which scales off massively with Back to Basics Keystone. Again, but why Back to Basics? It's because this league mechanic is extremely synergistic with anything that can roll your maps to higher levels of scaling difficulty, and that is where this strategy breaks Path of Exile 3.24 Necropolis League.
Ensuring our descendants have the means to return to greatness!
With this easy and straightforward farming strat, you are target farming T16 maps primarily for T17 maps. While running these maps as per the instructions in this video, you will be showered with tons of scarabs, embers, and anything that pops up in your lantern mods. And since we're scaling quantity to god tier levels, you're also guaranteed to drop tons of currency items and other useful stuff such as Atlas memories. And some of these drops will surprise you, especially if you've never played Magic Find builds. And yes, it also scales with Magic Find builds as well, although I wouldn't recommend it for any budget build, surely due to its lack of power. So this was tested with my build which I'm still working on. I haven't even spent a 50 divines yet on this build, but it's still fast and tanky enough to survive T17 maps. So the way how you get these T17s is through random conversions, specifically from T16 maps. This is purely based on the number of void stones in your Atlas, which you get by defeating the pinnacle bosses. With each void stone socketed, every layer of zone upgrades to its higher tier until it reaches tier 16. So the more you socket, the higher tier of maps you get as each layer gets upgraded. So if you want every single map to forcefully drop as T16s, you have to unlock all 4 void stones and socket them in your Atlas. In all my history of playing PoE with the new Atlas, I have never dropped any less than T16 other than stuff like incubators while running T16 maps with all 4 void stones allocated. So there's absolutely no reason to take these map nodes here if you have all 4 void stones active. And this is why they have specifically mentioned tier 1 to 15. This is what you would generally allocate at a league start scenario, and until you have your first 2 to 3 void stones ready. Now, the next controversial part. So the more tier 16 maps you drop, the better chance of conversions you get. And this is why under no circumstances should you take the singular focus Atlas Keystone while farming for tier 17 maps. Let me explain. Singular focus straight up converts any map that is not favored into a random currency item. And since we cannot favor any tier 17 map, there is no debate left whether or not the conversion happens before or after checking your favored slots. So this is straight up a big nerf to getting more T16 maps which could have been converted to tier 17s. So with that out of the picture, let's get to the Atlas tree. You might ask, why not the Eater altar with map duplication instead of the whole back to basic stuff? Well, this is mainly because there's too much of an RNG, and most of the time you get the map duplication mod after you finish half the map. And since the benefits from Back to Basics begins from the start of the map, this is more consistent and less time consuming to run our maps. We won't have to go back and forth to kill bosses to search for altars. Now, assuming you have allocated all the void stones, all the maps dropped will anyway be tier 16s. So since we don't have to upgrade our maps, we can focus on all the points to get more maps. This includes every single map drop node at the bottom of the Atlas. Shaping the World is an optional node which has a little bit of a use in this strat, but I'm still yet to see a tier 17 drop from a map boss. Other than this, we need mounting modifiers, chiseling perfection, and invasive adversaries, where I did notice quite a bit more rewarding monsters compared to maps without it. The next important set of nodes is the ones that increase the effect of map modifiers. And then we have to sacrifice 3 points for these nodes here, as we also want to scale as much quantity as well. The exploit from Eternal Torment with Back to Basics was removed in a hotfix last week. And Tormented Spirits is not intended with Back to Basics, as you can see it from its description. You can force the bosses to be possessed from the map mod, and also have some Tormented Spirits with certain lantern modifiers. But this will surely be patched soon, so I'm not relying on this bug at all. And then we have all the regular nodes which everyone takes for farming scarabs. In my opinion, it's best not to direct any of the scarab drops to a particular section, as this can lessen the chances of getting the valuable ones such as divination scarabs. The Ember and Lantern nodes have great synergy with Back to Basics. You will get tons of valuable embers, especially the meat sack ones. We want to increase the effect of the Haunted Monster modifiers. As more difficult the encounters, the more loot they drop. Now here's the cool thing. You can actually force leak mechanics partially using embers. One such use case is the Anarchy Embers, since Rogue Exiles can drop more scarabs through significant droughts. Also, you can get Harbingers in your map through the Lantern mods, so it is very important to place the challenging stuff to the monsters which have a higher pack size. Here are a few examples of how I place them. Your T16 maps should be well rolled. 8 mod maps are quite preferable. Otherwise, you can chisel an alk with a minimum of 90% item quantity. But this should not contain any of your build disabling mods such as less recovery rate. So if your goal is to sell T17 maps, you should focus on running the following maps as they drop the most expensive T17s. Make sure to favor the ones that have a friendly layout, preferably open field areas. The reason why these two are the most expensive ones is because the Uber bosses of both Ziggurat and the Abomination maps can drop the most valuable item, and that is the Reality Fragment, which opens up the portal to the Uber Maven fight, which can drop the Progenesis Flask. It's an extremely tough grind if you are farming this in SSF, but this is how it works to obtain it. Unlike the previous strat which is played by the top 1% of the players, this one has a wide variety of scarab combinations that you can throw in depending on the price and your preference. You cannot use any scarabs that contain leak mechanics. You can read the list of them by just hovering over the Back to Basics keystone notable. Using at least 2 regular cartography scarabs is my recommendation. If the cartography scarab of duplication is not more than 8 chaos, this is definitely worth adding. If the prices go up as it did for the scarabs for my previous video, you can use any of the ones that adds more monsters into the map, or even stuff like Scarab of Monstrous Lineage, and some of the other white scarabs. Even hunter traders drop a ton of stuff like maps, scarabs, and currency items. Unlike Rogue Exiles, they fight with other NPCs in the map. Barrels are quite the least useful ones unless you are using it in tier 17 maps. So once you've collected a couple of T17 maps, you can start selling them. The easiest way is to bulk sell them on a Discord server such as TFT. Alternatively, you can price fix them from your map tab. Since I don't have a stash tab for maps yet, I'll demonstrate this in a premium regular tab. So this is how you set up your entire tab on a fixed price. If you don't want to get annoyed by 1 or 2 ping requests, you can set them up like this to trade in bulk. The number at the top is the price of that quantity, and the one at the bottom is how much you're offering. This is how you bulk sell any item with premium stash tabs. So it's that simple and worth trying. It's been a fun strat for me, especially with my build that is quite fast and tanky. So go ahead and share your results in the comment section below. And thank you for watching.
Ensuring our descendants have the means to return